Chargers. Touchdown, UCLA.
With USC great and NFL stud, Frosty Rucker.
The Trojans back in front.
And LAFB founder Ryan Dyrud on the Believe Podcast Network and LAFBnetwork.com. This is your destination for Los Angeles football.
What's going on, Los Angeles? Welcome to the LA Football Show here on the LA Football Network. Everywhere you get your podcasts, we are on YouTube as well at LAFB Network. We're on the Believe Podcast Network and live on the mightier 1090 ESPN Radio. Thank you all so much for tuning in, making this show a part of your day. Jamal is still out on his honeymoon. Will be returning soon. But it'll be me for the intro, and then I'm going to be joined by the great Ryan Anderson, our Rams beat writer. We were at Rams OTAs yesterday up in Thousand Oaks, so we got a full kind of recap, breakdown, takeaways of what transpired up there, how the team's looking, thoughts about the future, all that good stuff. So for Rams fans out there, definitely stay tuned as we have a lot of good information coming to you straight from Rams headquarters. So those who don't know, my name is Ryan Dyrud. I'm your co-host of the show. Beautiful Friday afternoon, Friday evening, Saturday morning, whenever you are listening to this. But, it's a great day to be alive, a great day to be here in Los Angeles talking about our great football teams. I do want to mention, and this will not be the focus of the show. I know the goal always is this to be an escape, to be focused on football, to give people a break from everyday lives and, get information on their favorite teams, have some fun, talk about that. But got to mention, this horrific shooting that obviously everyone's talking about, as they should be, that happened down at Robb Elementary School in Texas. I believe the confirmed total as of today is, 19 children dead, 2 adults. Just an absolutely heart-wrenching, horrific event. We at LAFB Network want to do something to help. There's nothing really we can do in this situation to really help, right? Like you can't bring those kids back, those adults back. But at least we wanted to kind of show our support by, raising some money for the victims' families that can help them in some way. Again, it's more of a show of, we have their back. And I know it's just monetary, but showing like, hey, we see you, we hear you, here's something that can hopefully help in some way, whether it's for food, memorial service, or whatnot. And then we really need to get into, how to help this for the future, right? And so we're talking about doing a kind of a roundtable with all of our staff here at a later date that we're just going to dive into that. And so we'll give everyone a heads up. That will be a show dedicated, kind of a live roundtable, if you will, dedicated to kind of this topic. And, it's so polarizing is not the right word. It's just a horrible thing happening in our country. And it's like, how do we really address it? How do we fix it? How do we mitigate it? Without just pointing fingers, what can we do in our communities to be better? So we'll have that conversation and kind of just an open forum. Love to get, if anyone wants to be involved in that, please hit me up on Twitter at Ryan Dyrud, LAFB. You can just comment wherever you're watching this. If you want to, call in or text in or something like that. But for now, all this being said, to help with that, in our merch store, any purchase, the full amount will be donated directly to, memorial relief for these families. There has been a bank set up, or a bank account set up that you can send funds to. That will go directly to them. So if you go to our Twitter page, I have it pinned at LAFB Network at the top if you prefer just to donate directly. But if you buy any merch on the LA Football Store, that full purchase will go, you'll obviously get your item, and then the full amount will be donated to that fund. So again, not enough, so much more we can do to help, but at least it's something for the interim where we can kind of show that, hey, we have your back. So you can also text help Rob. That's help ROBB, the name of the elementary school, help Rob to 30132. And that will bring you the link as well to where you can, purchase and donate And like I said, that we're not keeping any profit or anything like that. That full amount is going to go directly to the victims' families. So that's that's help Rob to 31032. Just text that or just go to the LAFB locker room right on LAFBnetwork.com. Wherever you're listening, I'll have a link provided. But if you're on radio, it might just be easier. Text help Rob, 2 B's, remember, HELPROBB to 31032. We can certainly help with that. And then we'll keep you posted if we do this, roundtable for discussion about that. So, thoughts and prayers are never enough, but condolences, thoughts, prayers to all the families. I'm a father of a 2-year-old. I can't even imagine. It's been emotional for everyone, especially parents out there, because it's just, what do you do? Who do you turn to? How do we remedy this? I was laying with my daughter the day of when I was putting her to sleep and just thinking, man, I this is a blessing that I get this. And now there's 19 families out there that don't have this blessing anymore. And it's heartbreaking and it's terrible. And, we need it as a community. This is the last thing I'll say. There's obviously things that need to be done politically. There's obviously things that we can do socially, but instead of, and we need to figure out how to solve that and how to make those things happen. But what I hate seeing is every time these happen, it's more hate is created. It's mostly on Twitter, but you just see automatic blaming and this person is this is the fault and this is that. And obviously there's people at fault, but let's come together as a community and figure out how to fix instead of pointing fingers. That's the last thing I'll say on that. So thoughts and prayers to those families. But as I mentioned, Ryan's going to be joining me here in just a moment to discuss Rams OTAs. We were blessed to be invited out in person out to Thousand Oaks. We'll be there again next week. So make sure that you all stay tuned next week as well, as we'll have many, many more updates on that. Sponsor of the show today, our friends at Bet Online. Make sure to head to betonline.ag on your desktop or mobile device. Use the promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV. You're going to get a 50% welcome bonus on your first time deposit. My Avalanche play tonight, Game 6 of the NHL playoffs. Your Warriors, if you're Warriors fans out there, going to the NBA Finals yet again. Obviously we got the battle with the Celtics and the Heat to see who will represent the East. So plenty of good sports to bet on. You can also just do future bets on the NFL, which is what I try to stick to because that's what I know better. But betonline.ag is the place for all your betting needs. Promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV. With that, let's jump right into this discussion with Ryan, talking Rams, talking OTAs, talking football, baby. Let's get into it. As I mentioned in the intro, joining me on the LA Football Show right here on the LA Football Network and the mightier 1090 ESPN Radio, our Rams beat writer, my good friend. You know him as Ryan Anderson, but you should know him as Skinny T at RL Anderson LAFB on Twitter. My brother, what's happening, man? How you doing? Thanks for joining the show again.
I'm doing fantastic. We're fresh off our first day at OTAs, so I'm excited to talk about that.
Exactly. So we are going to get all into Rams OTAs, which we were in attendance up in Thousand Oaks at Cal Lutheran at the facility up there. Had a blast, get to know some of the Rams staff there and seeing some of the great beat writers the Rams have and kind of able to fully, integrate ourselves now into the team a little bit. We'll be there again next week. So make sure everyone out there stay tuned as myself and Skinny T will have updates next week at OTAs also. But Ryan, let's just dive in, brother. What when we first kind of got there, just what was your thoughts, whether it was based on the facility? Because I mean, it's not like anyone can just go to the Rams facility whenever they want. It's it was our first time at their facility in Thousand Oaks. Obviously, we've been to SoFi a bunch. We've been to Irvine for training camp. But what was your thought when we showed up just to training to the facility and kind of where they're housed at?
If you look up their address on Google Maps, it takes you to a dirt parking lot, and it seems like it's in the middle of nowhere. And that's kind of what it felt like. Getting to Thousand Oaks, it just seems like you're pulling up to the old high school football field, and we didn't know where we were going, but luckily we spotted Jordan Rodriguez pretty early on, and she showed us the ropes. And I said to her, it kind of feels like the first day at school. It's just a couple of modular units. Obviously they got state-of-the-art stuff inside of those, but really unassuming look to the whole Rams facility out there.
Yeah. Shout out to Jordan Rodriguez. Shout out Gary Klein for LA Times, Kevin Modesti for LA Daily News. Obviously, everyone knows Stu for Rams.com or TheRams.com. So they all kind of, I don't know, a little bit took us under the wing, showed us the ropes, kind of, said we could do it. So you use them for any help or questions. And obviously the Rams organization itself was great. So, but yeah, it was cool. It was cool kind of being one of the beat writers, right? Like officially, like we've always played that role. I feel like when we go to training camp, we put on our journalist hat and we try to like report what we see when we're covering games. We still do that, but we've never been able to with the Rams specifically. Obviously we have with UCLA and USC, but we haven't been able to be in that true journalistic role on the side of the field, next to the players, seeing them do interviews. We'll be interviewing guys next week. So I thought that was super cool being up close in person and being like, okay, this is, it's going from a hobby that we call a job to now a true, like it is a job that you will be doing, which is great. And you're going to crush it.
Well, thank you. Yeah, 100%. Just rubbing shoulders with these people that I've been reading for the past few years that I've been covering the Rams. It's really awesome to be up front. And there was a point where I was kind of moving from one side of the field to the other side of the field, get a closer look at the 7-on-7s. And I standing there for a few minutes, look over and I realize I'm 6 feet from Les Snead, they're talking Avalanche hockey, so.
I know, I heard that. I'm like, do I chime in? Like I heard him bring up the Avs. I'm like, what are you doing talking about the Avs? I'm like, I need to chime in here because the Avs play a big game 6 tonight, actually, in St. Louis. It's one of those moments when you're like, okay, the fan in me wants to yell F them picks or go say what up. But obviously the work environment is just going to like, yeah, I've been here before. Like no big deal. Right.
yeah, exactly. I'll work up the courage and good conversation topics to bring up with Les at some point. But first day in the building, I thought I'd just hang out and laugh at the jokes that I hear.
Yeah, we'll wait till like day 3 before we approach. But yeah, Les Snead and Kevin Demoff were in the house watching practice and stuff. So it's cool. Just going back to the facility, I've always been curious. I'm like, okay, they moved here to LA. There's all these. If they were gonna wait, because obviously the singular focus for Kroenke and the organization was SoFi, getting the state-of-the-art $6 billion venue that they're going to house their home games at. And so the facility kind of had to take a second or a back seat, if you will, but they obviously still needed somewhere to call home 365 when they're not at SoFi. And so I was always curious, like, okay, you have all these great universities right in LA. You have, different areas that they could probably get for fairly cheap that have like the Chargers doing the hoax. I know they have down in Costa Mesa, right by the giant IKEA. So like, I wonder why they chose like Cal Baptist or Cal Lutheran, all the way up in Thousand Oaks. Seems so far out of the way, but then you when you get there, you kind of see it like there's really no distractions because you're kind of that far out that they can really be. It's almost like they're always at training camp because it's just like on a college campus. It's up in the hills, kind of overlooking the ocean. So it's a beautiful, beautiful campus, beautiful scenery there. But then what they've done with it, you said the modules, but everything's state of the art still. Like it looks like a module trailer. And then you peek inside. We peeked and saw Stafford and they're doing some rotor cuff work or something, but it's all like big screen TVs, state of the art gym workout stuff. So it's not like it's not like they're roughing it out there. They're still in a great spot.
They definitely didn't skimp on that sound system either. That was bumping all day. That was great.
Yeah. I know. It felt like training camp. It's like, okay, you got the music going and stuff. But anyway, let's get to actual OTA talk. Before we kind of dive in, and you have a great article up already on LAFBnetwork.com with all of your takeaways from this day. I believe it was actually day 2, but our first day there. So you can check that out at LAFBnetwork.com, one of the featured articles there, or just search Rams. But before we kind of dive into all the things, was there anything off the top football wise that kind of struck you, or anything that stood out to you?
There's a lot of veterans that weren't out there, but it was really impressive to see the veterans that were there. certainly on offense, we saw Matthew Stafford out there right away, Cooper Kupp and both Allen Robinson. Those are a couple of the first guys we saw out there on the field. So you got to love seeing that kind of veteran leadership showing up, and they got to be there because, they're onboarding guys like Allen Robinson into that offense and a couple of rookies into that offense. So that was something that really stood out to me. Obviously, there's a couple of guys that aren't there because of contract things, and these are voluntary activities. But seeing Stafford and Cooper Kupp out there was great.
Yeah, I want to make one thing clear for fans and listeners, because this happens every time at OTAs, and part of it's stemmed at usually the media and us being included. It's like we're going to say who's there and who's not, and then some fans freak out in this. And it's great when you see veterans there, like it's fantastic, but it's it's equally as not a concern when veterans aren't there, I would say, if that makes sense. Like, it's great to see them there, but if they're not there, it should not be a level of concern. Like Aaron Donald not being there, Jalen Ramsey, we didn't see him yesterday. Ashawn Robinson, Leonard Floyd. It's not one of those things where everyone's like, oh man, why aren't they there? Like, why aren't they there for the team? It's a voluntary activity. They have this time off. Mini camp starts in, I believe, 2 or 3 weeks, and that's mandatory. So if they're not at mini camp, that's a little more concerning, but still not a huge deal, but more concerning than OTAs, which is literally just like going through some stuff, some installs. It's kind of stretching, just getting the guys back together. But my biggest takeaway was watching Cooper Kupp, the leadership he has shown, as we all kind of know anyway, that the football IQ that he has, but then turning that into Coach Kupp and really taking Allen Robinson under his wing, showing him every ins and outs of the offense, the installs, the route tree, the route schemes, where like they were down at the goal line at one point. He's showing exactly like you want to cut here, so you end up here, because Stafford's going to get you the ball right here, and it's going to be an open pocket 9 times out of 10. And then also, Jacob Harris being right there, kind of listening in. Higbee was right there, kind of stretching and doing things. So it's like Coop has always been this very cerebral, great player, but now he's become the elite name now. It's like he's taken that and taken the ownership and like, okay, well, I'm going to pass this down to make sure we're all on the same page. And again, this could be nothing new, but it's just not something we have been able to see, not being at practice every day. So being able to see that side was really cool to see. And, I just think, I think the combination of him and Allen Robinson is going to be unbelievable. And there was so much talk about it, including on this show, when that signing happened, whether you were for it or against it. I know me and you were both for it. Others were against it. The other co-host of the show was against it at the time. I think now he's warmed up to it. But I think now that free agency dust has settled, the draft has settled and is done with, they've added Bobby Wagner on the back end. They traded for Troy Hill. They drafted 2 corners, so we can at least kind of alleviate the need there. They drafted Bruss on the offensive line. So I think now that we've seen the roster kind of fill out, that could go down as one of the best signings of free agency. I think you have the Chargers that have maybe the best 2 in Khalil Mack. I know that was a trade, but him and J.C. Jackson. And the Rams getting Allen Robinson needs to get more and more steam, because, that duo, if we see Allen Robinson, what he's capable of with a true quarterback in Matthew Stafford, and having the best receiver in football on the other side, where he doesn't even have to be the number 1, he's the number 2. I think it's a scary proposition of what this offense can do even more. And then there's still the shadow of maybe OBJ coming back in November. Who knows?
Yeah, those are all great points. And everybody's on the staff has really been talking up Allen Robinson, how much he's already contributing and how much he's just absorbing this offense and studying with these guys, and really just sharing their excitement from Stafford and Kupp and McVay, all seeing the potential of what this guy can bring. With Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, it was always 1A, 1B. They did a lot of the similar things, just bringing in a whole new skill set to that receiver room. And another big takeaway from yesterday for me was Tutu Atwell. And feeling his presence and kind of seeing his development from when I saw him at training camp last year. kind of looking a little bit lost to this year. He's he's honed in. You can tell that he's put in a lot of the work just on the where he's supposed to be, his route tree. You couldn't feel his presence last year, and this year you already see early on that he's got a year under his belt and he's feeling more comfortable out there, which I know a lot of people were concerned. A lot of people are already calling him a draft bust, and he hasn't even played a full season for the Rams. So
barely a full game, yeah.
yeah, exactly. And he hasn't put on the weight that they've wanted to. It doesn't look like that he's much bigger, but he's still fast. And seeing him turn those corners, leaving guys in the dust is really fun.
No, absolutely. And before I comment on that, just for those that out there, and you kind of alluded it to as you wrapped up, but for those that don't like fully understand what that means, I'd love for you to break down when you say he looks like he wasn't fully comfortable last year, whereas this year already in one practice that we've seen, he looks more comfortable. Just kind of break down what that fully means. I know what you're talking about, but just for those listening, kind of what is going through where you can say that player doesn't look ready, and now it's like, oh wow, now that player just inherently looks a lot more composed and ready on the football field.
Yeah, I mean, he just I'll compare it and contrast it to what I saw before. So when they would break the huddle last year at training camp, he would step the wrong direction and then realize he's supposed to be over here. There was none of that this time around. This go around, he was out of the break and then moving to the right position. And then when the play gets going, he's going to the right spots in the field where he's supposed to be. And whereas before he would you didn't see that same speed and decision making that he was making in those routes. And so, and also one of the great things about being down on the field and seeing this, there's just a presence that you feel, like there's an aura about the stars. Like I can tell when, Matthew Stafford is around, just because like there's a sense of prowess.
Yeah.
Not to get too mystical or anything like that, but like there's a difference, and for a guy 5'8", 150 to kind of make an impression on the field like that, it tells that he's growing and he's developing, and he's got a commitment to the development. Not just the Rams side.
Yeah, and I hate when so many people, and it's not just fans, I mean, a lot of media podcasters, they do it too. So, but when they'll give up on a guy and call him a bust after a rookie season, a shortened rookie season, obviously one of the big concerns was Tutu was staying healthy because of his size. And obviously that was the detractors won that debate year one because he did get injured and missed the whole season. But in terms of just comfortability, understand the offense, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm an expert on Louisville offense and what they do, but in general, college offenses are much more simplistic. Some of them have very few just plays in general, but even if they have a lot of plays, receivers have, pretty simple concepts and where they line up. NFL in general is a beast to get into an offense, but the McVay offense, even more so, is such a juggernaut to learn. And you see it when you have guys like Cooper Kupp. When you hear him talk, you're like, okay, this guy is literally talking like what McVay would sound like, meaning the players on this offense have to be extremely smart to learn these things. And it's going to take time for a rookie going from a college offensive scheme to now this McVay offense to learn that. So it shouldn't be a surprise to a lot of people out there that he was, not fully comfortable, because it's learning so much new things. And then now this year, obviously, maybe it even helps being injured, because he could just really dive into the playbook and really learn all that stuff. And he just does look more comfortable, which is great. And I think he's a guy with where this offense is, with the receivers they have. If he can just play his role, which is that speed role, kind of like what they wanted Deshaun Jackson to do last year, where it could literally be 8 to 10 snaps a game. And one of those snaps is for a big 40-yard gainer where he busts open the defense, or at least keeps defenses honest, and they have to keep two high safeties, then he's not a bust. He's doing a job. I said this even in his rookie year. Statistically, it's hard to gauge a guy of his prowess, because people want to see, okay, 1,000 yards is how you're a successful receiver. But for what he does, and I get he was a second-round pick, so it's a high draft pick. But for what he does, he'll bring more to the offense than just his actual production, because he'll open things up for Allen Robinson, for Cooper Kupp, for Van Jefferson, for Tyler Higbee, for Jacob Harris when he's back. So I love seeing the progression there. We here at the LAFB Network are always glass half full anyway. We're always going to believe in these guys. And, these are human beings that put their all into the sport every day in, every night. And so I just, huge rooting for him, huge rooting interest that he is successful this year, which from day 2 of OTAs, it looks like he's in that direction. So I think that's a good thing, Ryan.
Yeah, that speed is going to create space for the other guys to work more effectively, just like you were saying. And that can't be understated. It's really important for the offense. So I think it'll be interesting to see. If you look at some of the other young guys, rookies, second-year guys, like the development plan for the Rams isn't necessarily always to get those draft picks worked into the offense in the first year. They're working on a 2 to 3 year development plan. Just looking back at guys like Darius Williams, even Troy Hill, John Johnson, it took a while for them to develop and become who they are. I mean, you got guys like Ernest Jones and Jordan Fuller that were moved a lot faster than that. But I don't think the Rams are concerned about his development.
No, yeah, especially a receiver. I mean, even Van Jefferson played that role player type role. His rookie year became a bigger role last year because obviously they let Josh Reynolds walk, and then he'll just continue to get a bigger role. So with Tutu, it's just about defining that role, and then on the coaching's perspective and McVay perspective, putting him in situations where, let's not run this guy over the middle where linebackers can take his head off and he's going to miss time because of his size. Like, we need to utilize him for what he's good at. We know his size when we drafted him. Let's make sure we're running him on routes where he's not going to be getting lit up, because we may lose him then for an extended period of time. I mean, me and you are small guys. I'm a 5'6", 5'7" guy. Like, I used to hate it in high school. My coach would call me on a route, a 2-yard slant route going right to the middle linebacker. I'm like, well, this is going to end well. Like, we have a 6'5" receiver running a go route, and I'm running over the middle. What are you doing?
And that's a really important point, because it seems like there's some interest or some rumors that he might be the return person, punts or kickoffs, and that's a really dangerous place to put a little guy. Even if he is super fast, he's going to take some hits at some point. And I like Brandon Powell at that spot. But with the draft picks and the people that they've added on offense, Brandon Powell is got to contribute on, not just as a return specialist, but I think he's got to work himself into the regular offense as well.
Yeah, it's getting to that point where the numbers, especially in today's NFL, it's really hard unless you have a Devin Hester or just an elite return specialist that is just a weapon every time they touch the ball, which Brandon Powell is really good. I just wouldn't say he's at that level yet. It's hard to keep a guy strictly for return abilities when you have so much talent at those positions. And especially when we saw the Rams go through injuries like they did at receiver and at the corner position, which are usually your return guys who play those type of positions. So you kind of need to have them the ability to do both. But speaking of injuries, let's move on from Tutu and talk about Jacob Harris, because guy that last year, this is when the hype started, was OTAs, rookie minicamp, OTAs, minicamp. That's when the hype that Jacob Harris train took off from the station and just got rolling as videos came out of him. The size, the physical specimen that he is, and unfortunately got injured, missed the entire season. We never got to really see that come out. He was there yesterday, knee brace on, wasn't participating in any team activities, but was at least running on the sideline, the speed was looking good again. The size is still there. What'd you think of what you saw? I mean, not that we can take too much away, but just what was your thoughts on Jacob Harris?
Yeah, I mean, when you have a knee injury like that, I can only imagine. I've never broken a bone in my life, much less injury that takes me out of whatever forever for several months. But
yeah, I broke my clavicle doing punt return, as you alluded to.
So right, there you go.
Yeah.
But he seemed confident. He seemed confident going through some pretty strenuous drills on the sidelines there, sprints He's doing a deep knee kind of backward run drill. I'm not sure what the proper name for that one is, but obviously
backward run drill. I love it.
Putting a lot of strain directly on that knee, and he didn't seem any kind of discomfort whatsoever. So it seems like his recovery is on track, and it was is that 8 months or so ago that he had surgery on that. So all seems pointing in the right direction. And the next thing will be to see if he's as athletic as he looked in training camp last year. He was making tremendous catches, rotating in the air, and he was never worked into the offense properly last year at all. Really, I mean, when he was injured, he was on special teams. As I recall, he was flying down the field trying to make a tackle.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
So, we talk all the time about, the Allen Robinson signing, potentially bringing OBJ back. We keep forgetting, if healthy, again, I know there's a lot of hate, but if healthy, both Tutu Atwell and Jacob Harris had such dynamic additions to this offense that, obviously OBJ would be great, but there may not be room for him if Jacob Harris is healthy and playing like we saw, and the hope for him was. If Tutu Atwell is healthy and progresses the way coaches thought he would when they drafted him, they may say, hey, we love OBJ. We love what he brings. He's a great player, great person. He helped us win a Super Bowl, but there's just not room. we have so much depth at that position because Jacob Harris, drafted as a tight end, I think McVay's even come out and said he's basically a receiver. He's going to be in that receiver room, if you will, but he can kind of play crossover, obviously. So, it's exciting to see that. Quickly, and then let's move. We'll move along here. We're already running out of time. Once we start talking, it just it flows. I love it. But Tyler Higbee not with the knee brace on. I thought that was very encouraging to see after his injury so late in the season.
Yeah. MCL as opposed to ACL, but still he injured that knee in the 49er NFC Championship game, so that was even a tighter window. And now he's out there. He was participating with the team activities. So yeah, I think his progress is looking good as well.
Yeah, let's talk about the offensive line. Obviously, no one's hitting or anything. If you've been to training camp and seen the Rams play, the first team doesn't even really throw the ball on things. They just do like their installs, and Stafford looks and points where he would go. So it's not like live hitting or anything like that, but at least we saw a little bit of what the depth chart could start to look like in terms of who's starting on the offensive line. And we have I'll let you talk about it, but what did you just think about the starting rotation and where Logan Bruss fits within that?
Well, it's interesting that Tremaine Ankrum was working with the first team. Obviously there's probably a learning curve for Logan Bruss. So, maybe he's working his way up the ladder. Everybody was talking about him as the most likely draft pick to get some starting reps. So we'll just keep an eye on that. No boom out there at left tackle. I forget, is it Evans or Edwards? I always confuse those two. There at left guard.
Yeah, you got Joe Noteboom at left. You got David Edwards as your left guard. Brian Allen as your center. Tremaine Ankrum was playing that right guard spot yesterday with the ones, and then obviously Rob Havenstein on the right side. So I think there's good depth there, and I've always said, unless you're taking a first round pick, anything after that, you don't necessarily want them to be slotted as the starter right away, because that shows how bad your depth is, right? If you drafted a third round tackle or a third round guard and he's automatically your starter, maybe that's some concern for, wow, our depth is not very good, or we're not feeling very high on that depth. Whereas if you feel comfortable with Tremaine Ankrum or Bobby Evans or someone else starting at their right guard, and you're forcing Logan Bruss to earn that, then I think that makes your total output and total outlook a lot more positive, because you say, okay, we have multitude of guys that we believe can start in that role. And if our draft pick rookie seizes that, then we're even in a better spot because then our depth is really good. So I take away, if people are like concerned, like, oh man, he's not the starter already. It's like, no. We saw this at Chargers camp last year where Asante Samuel Jr. was deeper on the depth chart for the corners, worked his way into that starting spot. I said the same type of thing. And so I think with Logan Bruss, that's got to be the expectation as well.
Yeah. And the offensive line is a place that I've always been, I've been proven wrong several times about the depth that they have, thinking even last year that the center position with Brian Allen was going to take a big step back when they lost the previous guy to the Chiefs at the beginning of last season, and that depth across the middle of that line was able to hold strong at points of the season. That line was one of the best lines out there, and they definitely faced challenges, but they lived up to it, and obviously it was good enough to get them to the Super Bowl and to win the Super Bowl with that line. And in a position like left or right guard, good enough is where you want to be. You don't necessarily need to have the greatest left or right guard in the world. That's not the position that's going to get you into the Super Bowl necessarily. Left tackle, on the other hand, that's where you got to pay attention.
Yeah, exactly. It certainly, obviously, it helps. You want every position to be elite, but I mean, you look at the best left guards in football. They reside in Indianapolis and Dallas, and those teams aren't exactly winning Super Bowls because of their elite left and right guards. And that's no disrespect to the guard position. Just saying, it's if you have I've compared a lot the offensive line as a chain, and every lineman is one link in the chain. And if you have one side stronger, it's going to automatically strengthen the next link next to them. So if you have a weaker position, but a strength that's right next to them, that link is, or that chain is still going to be strong. So I think they're in a good spot. And again, we'll see more when they're actually hitting, and there's actual stuff where you can't judge guarding and stuff like that when you're having no pads on and you're going against air. So quickly, let's jump to the defense. Anything stood out to your defense? Bobby Wagner was in attendance. Great to see him in the big 4-5 out there. Ernest Jones with him. It's going to be a dynamic linebacking pair. Some of the rookies, obviously, Jacoby Durant, some of those guys. Any takeaways quickly from the defense before we wrap up?
Interesting thing, Bobby Wagner was spending a lot of time with Cooper Kupp. I found that interesting. I don't know what that means exactly, but interesting note. You don't often see the crossover there. With a lot of the defensive line not in attendance, your Aaron Downs, your Greg Gaines, Ashawn Robinson weren't in attendance. A lot of the younger guys were getting a lot more reps, which is really good for them. The previous last year's draft class, including Bobby Brown,
and Ernest Jones.
Yeah. Well, and Ernest Brown, Bobby Brown.
That's right. They're both Browns. See, I always do that. And the Ernest are spelled differently. Ernest Brown and Bobby Brown are both the defensive linemen. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. They were getting a lot of attention, and it's good to see them getting that development work, because that will become a question mark sometime in the future.
Exactly. And Bobby Brown's just a beast, dude. He's a big dude that if he can develop how they want and how they were excited about when they got him out of A&M last year, their defensive line, as always, is going to be just so deep and so good.
And Justin Hollins and Chris Garrett were looking like beasts out there. Just incredible.
Justin Hollins is a huge human being.
Yeah. And Chris Garrett's not far behind him.
No. Yeah. And Terrell Lewis looked good too. Terrell Lewis was out there. He was healthy at the moment.
Yep, exactly. So, there's always a lot of talk of this guy's in the best shape in his life. He's the healthiest he's ever been at this point in the season, or in the off season anyway. But, just the sheer physical presence of those guys is impressive. So,
exactly.
So I'm really intrigued what they're doing on for the rotation opposite Leonard Floyd with all those guys.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see when he's there, because obviously he was not there yet. But I think we'll see all of them rotate, including Leonard Floyd. I think we'll see Floyd, Hollins, Garrett, Terrell Lewis, all in that rotation. Obviously, they drafted some guys late in the draft as well that can kind of play out there. So it's going to be fun to see how they develop. And if Justin Hollins is fully healthy, which he looks to be, I mean, he's no Von Miller. I know he's wearing 58 again. He's no Von Miller. I'm not going to sit here and say that. but he was having a damn good season last year before he got hurt. And the Rams led the NFL in sacks. Again, not Von Miller, the wrecking man, the one-man guy that can take a game over, similar to what Aaron Donald does. But it wasn't like they were hurting in the sack department with Justin Hollins and Leonard Floyd as your two main starters with the rotation in there. So I'm really excited to see how this group rises to the challenge and continues to kind of be or prove the coaching staff right, if you will. So last thing I'll say, Ryan, Coach Henne, defensive line coach, I think that guy's got 4 plays left. Dude looks huge still.
He's looking really good, yeah.
He's got 4 plays left. So Skinny T, Ryan Anderson, find him on Twitter at RL Anderson, LAFB. He is our Rams beat writer, one of the best in the business. Super blessed to have him. And we will be back at Rams OTAs next week as well. My brother, thanks for joining me. We'll be doing this all season long with the Skinny on the Rams with Skinny T. So thanks, my man.
That's right. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you all for tuning in. That's all the time we have here on the LA Football Show. Thank you to Ryan Anderson. Once again, you can find him at RL Anderson, LAFB on Twitter. He is our Rams beat writer for your Los Angeles Rams. So everything you need to know the Rams, he knows it all. Obviously, we got you covered here on this show as well, but he'll have you on everything print form that you can digest. I hope everyone has a fantastic weekend. Once again, if you do want to help the victim families in some way out in Texas, text the words or one word, help Rob. That's HELPROBB to the number 31032. You'll get sent a link where you can purchase any of our merchandise, and 100% of the proceeds will be donated directly. Thank you all so much. Stay safe out there. God bless. I'm Ryan Dyrud. This is the LA Football Show. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you all again next week. Be back at it. Appreciate you all. I'm out. Peace.